Remembering who you are is not just a saying, it's literally what we came here to do. And I think nowadays it's evident more than it has been ever before because a lot of people are waking up and realizing that the lifestyle that they've lived up until this point is not sustainable because it goes against a lot of the laws of nature. It goes against their true essence and their true being and the reason why they came here. And so in today's channeled message, I want to kind of just share, some ideas of what this looks like and how we can begin to make that shift into creating the reality that is aligned with who we are and what we came here to do. I think a lot of people are so stuck in the routine and stuck in the indoctrination, the programming that we've been taught from a very young age. So much so that they believe that this is the norm. They believe that this is the only way to live, when in reality, it's not. And we're seeing this every day, just here on YouTube, you see all the time that people are out there finally realizing and doing the things that they've always wanted to do. They find their passion and then they share it with others. And the idea behind that is to ignite something within us that allows for our own true essence and our light to shine through. What does it look like when someone's living out of alignment or when someone is not walking in the path that they came here to walk in? It looks like fatigue, it looks like dis-ease, it looks like just a constant lack of joy and happiness throughout life. And I'm not saying that life is going to be, rainbows and sunshine every single day of your life, but there should be prolonged moments and periods of bliss where you just feel like, wow, this is exactly what I'm here to do. This is what I'm meant to do. And yes, it does come with some trials and tribulations, but those challenges, once we are aware and once we recognize what it is that we're here to do, we will see those challenges as just ways for us to improve and accelerate our journey on this path. And so as of right now, a lot of people might be looking at their challenges such as obstacles that they just simply cannot resolve. Through our problem solving, we're able to store a lot of the solutions for future events. We're also able to learn lessons that we otherwise wouldn't have learned. We're able to improve ourselves through these challenges in order to get us closer to our desires and our dreams. A lot of people just accept this as the norm, that whole idea of, life isn't happy, life isn't fun, life is, happening to me instead of for me. A lot of people have that mentality. And so, especially now, I think people are realizing, I'm unhappy, I'm truly unhappy. And I want to make a change. And I see, these people who are breaking out of the matrix, so to say. There are people who are waking up. They're removing the veil that has been blinding us for so long. And so the ways that, I began to do this, I'm still in the process and it's a journey, and I will probably always be in this journey of unraveling my true essence and unraveling why it is that I truly am here. The ways that I began to do this was to, first of all, address my traumas, because trauma is something that holds us back to the past, whether it be this lifetime or a previous lifetime. And when we hold on to this trauma, we tend to only connect with that story, and it doesn't allow us to create a new story. What this looks like is, you're presented with a new opportunity, and this opportunity was brought to you by the universe to help guide you towards a new path. However, our traumas or our previous events will tell us, will trigger something within us and say, hey, last time we did something like this, this happened. Versus looking at the opportunity as an isolated event, which is how we should be looking at every experience, not just opportunities. This is how we should be looking at relationships, how we should be looking at, any idea or prompting that we receive and we're not sure where it comes from. We need to recognize that as an opportunity for us to expand. And so that's one thing that, I started working on, is addressing my traumas. And I did this through various forms of therapies. I'm still doing this, and it's a daily practice as well. So you take what you've learned from your sessions, or however you choose to go about this, and you have to apply it. That's the only way that we can move forward in a different direction, closer to creating the reality and the desires that we want. So trauma is a really big thing that we have to start releasing and letting go of. Forgiveness is the next thing, and I'm still working on this as well, actively, as I'm speaking with you guys. Forgiveness is something that we aren't taught. We are taught to hold grudges, whether it be subliminally or subconsciously or whatever the case is. We may hear, forgive and forget, but we don't actually practice that in our everyday society. And so one thing you have to really come to terms with is identifying those who you still hold grudges against, and utilizing, some form of writing or speaking or screaming or some sort of somatic expression to release that grudge that you have with this person. Sometimes I would say the best form of doing so is to actually tell the person, like, I forgive you. A lot of the cases we can't do that, and a lot of times we don't want to do that, and that's okay. But we need to energetically release these ties that we have to events, situations, people that we have not forgiven, because that is also something that is holding us back. So think of it, if I had to give you a visual, think of it like you are a person and you have a ton of strings attached to you, and these strings are pulling on you, holding you back. And so the best way to move forward is to start cutting these strings. And as you cut each string one by one, you cut your trauma, you cut your grudges that you're holding against anyone and everyone that you've ever encountered. And then the next would be cutting our habits and addictions. And what I mean by this is we sometimes adapt certain habits to help us cope with the trauma and to help us cope with those who have done us wrong, or those who we have not forgiven. We've adapted to these things, and essentially that becomes our reaction. And so when we are aware and mindful of our habits, and we start changing them for the better, and we are aware of our addictions can go so far and so deep, and they can be so hidden. And so understanding what an addiction is, this might look like drugs, alcohol, sex, social media, drama, like those are addictions too. Addictions to mindsets and beliefs. So I am always broke, or I am always unhappy, or something's always happening to me. That's an addiction, And so we want to become aware of our habits and our addictions, and then we want to begin to make changes to those habits, and start small. Start with one thing. If you wake up and you're like, I don't want to check my phone first thing in the morning anymore, start with that. And then you'll start to see that gradually over time, you begin to build better habits that are, again, cutting these ties that are holding you back. Addictions as well. If you find yourself in a situation where you feel overwhelmed and stressed, and you want to reach for that one thing that's going to bring you comfort, try to find other ways to cope with it, or find other things to replace it with that might be a healthier option. And then over time, you'll recognize, like, oh, I don't actually need to do this thing anymore, because I found better ways to cope, right? So that is the summary of most of the things that hold us back and what it looks like that's keeping us away. And all of this has to do with programming. We were programmed to believe that we are our traumas. We were programmed to believe that these habits and addictions that we've acquired are the norm, when in reality, they're not. Just because they're perpetuated to us consistently, it doesn't mean it's good for us, meaning through the media, or, the media is the biggest one, through movies, whatever you're consuming, music. Just because it's being thrown at us doesn't mean we need to receive it, right? So we have to become aware of the signals that are being sent to us to keep us in this programming, to keep us suppressed. And we have the power to do that. It's all in awareness. So once you make the connection that this is what's taking place, you can choose. You have free will. You have a choice to choose that you will no longer accept this. Going a little bit deeper into the programming, this, I kind of alluded to beliefs and what we tell ourselves, the narrative that we tell ourselves. When you start working on all of those things that I mentioned, you will begin to change that self-narrative. And that self-narrative will begin to look more like, oh, I like this, so I'm going to go do this. Or I want this in my life. How do I get it? You begin to see the possibilities based on your inner desires, which come from your heart. The way that I was told about, what a desire is essentially it's something that we know deep down that we came here to do, and they come to us in the form of desires. And these desires live in our heart. And so they wouldn't be there if it wasn't for us to achieve, or if it wasn't for us to work towards. Once you start working on all of that, you'll begin to feel and hear and see your inspirations coming towards you, your desires coming towards you, and you'll be more clear on what it is that you want to go after. And at that point, you have the tools to make a plan and to slowly achieve what it is that you desire. We live in a 3D world, so manifestation doesn't happen overnight. We have to recognize that as well. The beauty of it is that our manifestations is a direct result of our actions. And so by you taking action towards the right direction, to awakening, to self-realization, to self-awareness, you'll begin to see how everything else starts to fall into alignment. And you can do this no matter your situation, no matter if you have, 3 young kids, no matter if you work 20 hours a day, no matter what the situation is, if you're sick, if you're depressed, if you're sad, now is the best time to start doing this. Now is the best time to start feeding yourself with the tools and the knowledge that you need to start breaking those ties. And you can start as small as right here on YouTube. You can start making the necessary changes in your daily habits. Just one thing, that's all it takes. And then it'll cascade into several really great things. And so I hope this video was helpful. I will be sharing a lot more, especially because of the time that we're in right now, just a constant reminder that you can have, be, and do anything you desire. So you should never forget that. And if anything, this is a reminder of that. And if you have any questions, feel free to comment down below. I do have a few posts that I wrote on this subject, and so I'll link those down below.